chaos. Wicked witches. Trusting the unknown. Welcome to the Nonsense in the Chaos. I'm your host, Jolie Rose. It's that beautiful liminal time between Christmas and New Year's Eve when everything stops and we're able to enjoy having this actual proper time out from the hustle bustle noisiness of the world. And I'm sure for some people this is awful and I can understand how this could seem irritating, dead, quiet and boring. But for me, it's something I've learned over time to absolutely cherish and love. And that's the same as how I feel about January and February. They're times of year that I used to dread and get really bad seasonal affective disorder through a combination of taking vitamin D and also giving myself permission to stop and rest. I now absolutely love January and February. And this week, it's fallen perfectly. So today's the 29th of December, it's Sunday, and because we had Christmas and then Boxing Day and then we had this weekend, people haven't been expected to go back to work in between Christmas and New Year. We have had full permission for all of us to stop and rest, and it's just been a delight to not be receiving any emails, to not be expected to be doing anything, and I've had a lovely time. It's been wonderful. I've had extremely late lie-ins and slept for hours more than I normally do. And yesterday we had a leftover dinner where I had so much turkey. We didn't actually have a Christmas dinner at mine. I went to my in-laws, but we won a Christmas turkey at the meat draw on the Friday before Christmas. I roasted it and I'd never cooked a turkey before and I was very proud of the results. Came out rather well and it was covered in bacon. We devoured some of it one night on the weekend and we got back from the pub late and then didn't have any other point where we'd eaten it. And so yesterday I made a hodgepodge pie where we pulled all the meat off and there was loads of stuffing because it was stuffed with a lovely sausage, walnut and apple mix that I'd put together. I was very proud of myself. I made all of it up from scratch and chopped it all up and put it into this baking tray. And then I asked Dizzle to make me some pastry for it, but he only made about half of what I needed to cover the pie. So it was even more hodgepodge than it should have been. It had just a central rectangle of pastry in the middle, and then I filled in around the edges with mashed potato. But it worked really well. And there was like peas and bits of pumpkin left over still from Halloween that I have in the freezer. So yeah, it was absolutely delicious. He put a vegetable sauce together as well for me, and I put that in there. And yeah, it worked. Then someone else had made a huge Thai turkey red curry. And someone else had won a veg box and brought all of the vegetables from the veg box with them. We have meat draws over here all the time, and it's so amusing. Because when I first moved here, the only time I'd heard of a meat draw was at a theatre show that I'd worked on called The Dog and Dumpling. It was highlighting how all the pubs were closing down. And it was a bit like Carry On Films meets EastEnders. It was a really rude, raucous, debauched theatre show that was just proper Carry On sense of humour, about a landlord and about this pub and him trying to save the pub. And in that, they had a meat drawer and they had this big tray of raw meat and they were just doing this raffle and it was so disgusting. And just the concept was like, what? That is gross. Then I moved here and we do it all the time. But actually, it's brilliant. The meat we get is from a proper butcher from Guernsey, all local Guernsey meat. The turkey I got was a full size, the full whack Christmas turkey. And you'll get like a breakfast pack and there'll be, 2 lots of sausages and 2 lots of bacon in it. And it's way more than you would normally buy from the shop if you were buying meat. And it's normally unusual meat. So like I got a whole duck the other day as well as the turkey, things you wouldn't necessarily buy. But I spent 15 quid that night on tickets and I won £100 worth of meat. It is amazing. I love it. All of us have full freezers because there's 3 meat draws a week around the pubs. Each pub takes it in turns. And we go to all of them. You might go through periods where you don't win anything, but on the whole, you will win. And yeah, we've all got full freezers of weird random meat because of that. So that meant that we all had lots of stuff to eat for Christmas. We haven't had a cargo boat for about 4 or 5 days now. Over the Christmas period, you have to stockpile, and the shops haven't been open as well. So I managed to get to the shop today that shut at 3, and every other day for the last 2 days it had shut at 12, and I hadn't managed to get there in time. You have to fill your freezer and cupboards with things, because if you get stuck and you don't manage to get to the shop, or there wasn't, the right things coming through on the cargo, and that's it. You don't have a choice about getting it from anywhere else. It's such an interesting life living here. It feels like the Tudor thing that I do, Kentmore Hall, it feels very similar to that, because when you haven't got things, you have to work out different ways of doing things, and you think your way around obstacles or over obstacles. It's very much about working together in a community, and that's what I love about it. Like last night, the feast we created was ridiculous, and we had a lovely time. We drank loads of sloe gin made from sloes that I'd picked from the bushes here. It's just lovely. We all make sloe gin and have these beautiful meals together. It's just a really lovely thing. I do really appreciate being in such a tight-knit community, especially at the moment when I'm not getting emailed about the government, but are just getting to hang out and socialise and have a nice time. That's when it's absolutely perfect. So it's coming up to New Year's. Tomorrow's the 30th, and that's spending my day for me birthday day. So I'm going to be starting the Creation Hibernation writing workshop tomorrow at 7:30. I've got a group of people joining for that, and I'm really looking forward to it. We'll be working with the moon energies to spend 2 months writing, which is going to be really nice. I'm also going to be doing a dark moon ceremony for the Capricorn Dark Moon, which I'm really excited about because I'm a Capricorn. It's my birthday on the 31st. And it's just the energy of really getting yourself together, like getting your shit together, for want of a better word. It's focused, ambitious, driven energy. And what we're going to do tomorrow is make a mood board for the year ahead. You can do this at any point this year. I think it's a really useful thing to be doing in the following year, in 2025, for a bunch of reasons, which I will now explain. I've just come from an amazing online workshop with my magic teacher, Remington Donovan. I'm hopefully interviewing him on the podcast, which I'm very much looking forward to. He is where I get my numerology, astrology and tarot training from. So I've been following him for a few years now, and I'm part of his inner order on Patreon, which means that it's like a school. He does regular videos where he's teaching us how to do things. I've been in touch with him a lot and spoken to him about things, and he's really helpful and amazing. His online school on Patreon and also his social media presence on Instagram, I just think is brilliant, and I find him really useful and a great teacher. He just did a workshop on how 2025 is a year 9 in numerology. So it's 2 add 2 add 5 equals 9. So I thought I would share with you the highlights of what we're coming through, because I think it's going to be quite a difficult year. And I'm not quite sure why, but the number 9 is something, there's something in maths where if you divide by 9, it always equals something. Like there's some kind of magical thing that happens with the number 9. If you do know, please let me know, because it's annoying me that I can't remember what it is. I think that it's to do with that. Your numerology birth chart, which you can look up online, you can find out how to work out your birth chart. In fact, you can get Remington Donovan's numerology book, which is how I worked mine out, and it's brilliant. That's on Amazon. I'll put a link to that in the description. There's your different paths, like your life path, destiny path, and challenge path. So our challenge path is what's challenging us in our lives, and our personal number in our numerology next year, which will be your birthday and birth month added together to the year. So for me, it'd be 31st of the 12th added to 2025, and that makes 7. It goes up to 11, and then if it was 12, you'd add 1 and 2 together and make it 3. Once it's past 11, you add them together. 13 will be 4. Mine is 7 next year, which is the number of Venus. The way the numbers are falling, it will mean a lot of people's personal years next year will be their challenge number. So it's worth finding yours out just to see what is occurring. The last time we had a 9 year was 2016, and that's the year when all of the amazing famous people died. And it is the year of like the master. It's a very subtle year. It's the number of subtlety and invisibility. The main thing is that if you imagine an alchemical process, you have 8, which is the energy that we just have been in, which is the life force energy. So that's like you capturing the fire, getting the fire going so that it's all ready for everything to happen. You've got the ingredients and all the power and magic is there ready. And then 9 is you cleansing and purifying all your instruments before 10, where you turn the lead into gold. You are in the process of turning the lead into gold this year, but it's all about purification. This isn't the year where the gold's going to happen necessarily. I mean, it's, this is a wash with anything. It's the same as, with astrology or anything. It's a wash, but we're going to have this energy that is very subtle and gentle and sort of invisible, but is actually about us finding mastery. So it's really bright and light and airy, and we should find it easy. We should be finding things easy. But the problem can be is we could be making mountains out of a molehill. It's about getting more from less rather than making a big deal about nothing. Really trusting the process. 9 is a year of limitlessness, and it's very much to do with breath work and air and the prana, your breath work and building your prana so that you have the power to do the 10 thing in 2026. So 9 is the year that lots of famous people died, like David Bowie and Prince. And interestingly, the colour for the number 9 is purple, and Prince is famous for wearing purple and singing about it. It is the number and colour of the mystic, mystery, and mastery. And, many masters died that year. David Bowie was a mystic. So this number is about subtlety and subtle body in yoga. If you've ever done yoga and know about the subtle body, it's the feeling into that's beyond the gross feelings. So you might have backache or a dodgy hip, but it's trying to feel into the other part of you, which is more subtle than that. And so this is about subtlety and breath work and, prana. So all the things that are hidden, unseen, when applied accurately, it's invisible. So mysteries behind what's obvious. So this is about grace, and a quote for it is the master of all systems. Genius mastery opens higher flow and depth of greater awareness and sensitivity. Should be a year of ease. So ease up on yourself. I like the idea of there being an ebb and flow. If we're just doing patriarchy, we're just pushing. I like the idea of working with these different energies, regardless of whether they're true or not. It gives space for us to allow for breath in and out. It's not just always out. We're sometimes breathing in and holding our breath. That's how I feel in the January-February month, this creation hibernation. It's silent. And then the dark moon and menstrual bleeding time and all of this and winter, they all go together, and then we breathe out and it's spring and everything's coming to life and we're all kicking off again. I love that, and I think that it's important that we allow for that to happen. This is the year of doing the washing up, like you're washing everything up and clearing everything away to prepare yourself for the cake to come out, the nice thing to happen. I am thinking back to 2016, which was when we last had a 9 year. And that was the beginning of my career as an artist. So that was the first year that I performed Hip, my first ever one-woman show, which I did a recording of in one of my podcasts about Anne Clark, my guardian hero. That was the beginning of my trajectory as my own artist. Up until that point, I'd spent the last 6 odd years being a producer because I was doing IVF. So that whole journey I went on of doing IVF and not ending up having children. Because of the IVF, I'd given up performing because I couldn't commit to being in anything because I didn't know whether I was going to be suddenly a mum. I had no idea what was happening. And so I'd given up my career in theatre and being an artist, and I'd ended up in the call centre, which was horrific. But from that, just ended up doing producing and admin kind of side of things because that had more flexibility. And if I did get pregnant, that would be okay. And it was a job I could still do from home. And it didn't need me to be on a stage or be somewhere on a tour or something like that. It wasn't until I definitely knew I wasn't having kids anymore and I'd stopped all of that that I then was in a position to go, oh, okay, now I can have my career again. And 2016 was the year where that happened. That feels exciting. It's not like this 9 energy is completely lackluster. It's the preparation for something to happen. I did all the preparation and groundwork for that show to exist. And then I took it to Edinburgh in 2016. Off the back of that, it went on tour, created the Museum of Ordinary People, created Sisterhood, and went on tour with that. Then I had this theatre career. What is it that you want to become a master of in this next chunk of time? You know, what is it that you're stepping into? And that's really exciting. For me, it's writing. I wrote the book last year for the Walking in Autumn series, and I know that this next one is the big one for me. So I'm not too fussed about pushing to try and get this first one published now. I want to get the second one written and really go for it, because that will be my 5th novel. This next one will be the 5th one that I've written. And so I feel like I'm probably there now. Do you know what I mean? There's a saying in writing that so many 10,000s of words, I don't know what it is, like 40,000 or whatever it is, it takes that many to learn the craft. I feel like novel 5 is there. I know what I'm doing. I have a voice and I like the way I write. So yeah, I'm up for really going for it with this one, because it's going to be very challenging, because the first one was me on my own encountering people, whereas this is me with 30 other people, and I need to work out how I'm going to do that. And I'm going to need to find that way through and make it exciting and interesting and make the dialogue work and just make it work. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the challenge of making that work and adding in the more fantasy elements and the mythological communication with the land that was part of the mysteries of it all, and whether it's true or not, but it's my truth. I'm looking forward to that. I feel like this year 9 is about how to become a master of something, and to give yourself the space to do it. By doing the creation hibernation, I'm giving myself that space and ease to enjoy the process of writing and trusting myself. But the intention is to become a master of what I'm doing and to do it really well. That also includes the podcast. I'm disappointed with the sound quality of some of the podcasts that I've done, and I've learnt lessons because it's to do with the person I'm interviewing has to have a microphone. Obviously, that makes it a bit more complicated to arrange, but it's important because otherwise you can't hear what they're saying. So things like that, I want to master the podcast and make sure they're much better and be doing things for you that are better. The quality of what you're putting out needs to deserve what you're getting back for it. So if you want to earn more money or do more in a certain area, you need to make sure that what you're putting out is worth that. So that's important. Like, that's the thing of becoming a master. So the year 9 is ruled by the moon. It's the moon card. In tarot, the moon card is the dark night of the soul before you get the universe card. The universe is the career you've always dreamed of, or it's more of a spiritual thing than that. It's you stepping into this higher version of yourself, your higher purpose. The universe is the end of the tarot journey. And so you're going to get the prize, you're going to get the whistles, you're going to get this upgrade and huge personal development, but that last step before you get there is where the sabotage fairy resides. We used to talk about this a lot in Fooling. It happened to us. We learned all the words to Richard II, learned the whole play by heart, had created this performance that was actually really cool. It was like a lump of plasticine. And we didn't have individual people playing parts. We created shapes. So there was a shape of Richard II, which would have someone standing behind creating the crown with their hand. And then people would be the courtiers and make the throne around his body. And it reminded me a lot of Labyrinth, where the hands make the faces and things like that. We were the flags and the wind. We were the dogs. We were the pig with an apple in its mouth on the banquet table. We were the fire. We were the horses in the jousting match. We were the jousting, whatever they're called, jousts. Guess they're called jousts. All the different things. So we played all the parts and it was amazing. It took us 3 years to learn all the words and get this piece of work together. The last time we performed it was at my house, just before the IVF thing started. This was when I was doing my performing career prior to stopping it. I was very much a student and learning, and I didn't feel, I only just about was calling myself an artist. I didn't feel confident about calling myself an artist at that point. I was still learning. But I'd learned all the words to Richard II, and we'd created this performance, and we did it in my house, which was this studio that we were living in Brighton for a little while, called Studio Wonderland. And we just chucked the cushions down on the floor, and about 20 people came to see it. And they just sat on the floor, scattered around the place. And it's like we threw the snow globe of Richard II around everybody, and we did the performance around everyone. People saw the shape of me making the throne when I was being Richard II. I just grabbed one of the audience members' arms and made them part of the throne and they went with it. Suddenly they might find themselves sat around a fire being soldiers, having bits of meat like chicken legs handed to them and flagons of beer. It was just like they were suddenly there around the fire with the soldiers. It was just so cool. We made Richard II happen all the way around everybody and everyone got to be in it. It was absolutely brilliant. And then the sabotage fairy came in and that was that. We went our separate ways. One of us got pregnant. It would have been a nightmare to rehearse it again with people missing. So it fell apart. That is the sabotage fairy. And I've seen it happen time and time again. You'll get in there and the thing's about to happen and the sabotage fairy comes in and screws it up. Now, it is a learning. I've learned loads from those experiences with the sabotage fairy. I hope that I'm in a place now where I can see that coming. If it's someone else's project or it's something I'm involved in, like the government, things like that, I will accept that the sabotage fairy might come in and screw things up that we're doing. Like, that's just part of the process. But with my own work, I will be endeavouring not to sabotage myself, just keeping an eye on that thing because it pops up and it's that thing right at the last minute that just scuppers everything and it all falls apart. But it's part of the learning. It just means that maybe that wasn't the thing you were meant to be doing and you need to be more aligned in a different direction and this was distracting you. It's trusting the process with all this. Dark night of the soul before the big bang. That's what we're looking at. The 9 years about dance, grace, and being like a ballerina. It's subtle, sophisticated, graceful, masterful, reflective, elegant, effortless, transcendent, sublime. Be mysterious, be the mystery. Do therapeutic inner work. Brilliance beyond what you think you can do. The vices is overly complicating things, being overly sensitive, neurotic, clumsy, spaced out, despairing or reactive, fragile, ungrounded, or crass. It has a sort of Pisces feel, if you've ever tuned into the energy of Pisces. Pisces is water, and you do need to have a container, otherwise you can sort of just feel like you're flopping all over the place. So if that means anything to you, then it's that kind of energy. So yeah, breath work and quiet spaces. I don't even can hear, but this podcast and the last one, I've been wheezing when I'm doing the talking, and that's been bothering me because I don't want to be doing podcasts wheezing. It's been because I got ill when I was in England. I got ill 3 times in that 1 week. And then since I've got back, I've still been gluggy. And yeah, I suddenly got asthma back again. So I feel like I've totally failed in the year 8 of developing my prana and my breath work, which is what I should have been doing. However, I do think, and you're the first to hear this, I haven't told my husband yet, but I think I'm going to actually do a year of not drinking. I'm not saying I'm not going to drink forever, but I think I'm going to give up booze for a year. I'm not even going to make a song and dance about it. I'm telling you guys, I might not even tell people here and just crack on with it because I don't want to smoke. I slip into smoking when I drink. I never used to be able to socially smoke. I used to just smoke and then I'd have to give up, which still is what happens. But I can give up really easily. It's just that now I know that I then slip into smoking again. I've been smoking over Christmas. I want to not smoke and I want to not drink. I just want to be really clear. Like, it feels like this year is an opportunity to have magical clarity. And I've been saying that my well's feeling a bit empty and I feel like I need to refill my well. Like in 2020, I was so fit. I was the fittest I've ever been. I got rid of my asthma from giving up wheat, dairy and sugar, which includes alcohol. I got really fit and did that first pilgrimage on my own. It was amazing. This year I didn't do the pilgrimage and I feel like this last year's been really tough for me. It's been magnificent in many ways. I got married, which was wonderful, and opened Boomtown, which is mental. And, I had a lovely time. I've had a lovely year. It's been big, wonderful things happening. But I've not been as excited and impassioned about life as I have been in the last few years. So what happened was when I reconnected to magic and my spirituality, knowing my craft as a witch and connecting to this world of astrology and numerology, I became so excited. Life became infused with meaning again, and it was really exciting. It's ever so slightly petered out a little bit, but there is an element of me not feeling in integrity with it. That is because I'm drinking and partying and I'm having a great time, but it's not quite hitting the nail on the head in the way that I was feeling before. And, things have shifted and changed and I've ended up settling. I went through a big change, which does make life more exciting and vibrant and flavoursome again. And then now things have settled and I'm in a more settled space. But I just feel a bit like I expect more of myself than I've done. And yeah, that's why I'm doing the creation hibernation this year, because it would have been easy for me to try and carry on and do the podcast at the same time. And actually, I'm so glad that I've stopped and I'm not doing that, because I wouldn't have time to write. And I want to give this book my time and energy. Just give myself this space to be like, actually, I want to get really ninja and become a master at something and really go for it this year without thinking that I'm going to achieve anything this year. It's about me giving it my full attention. I'm not saying I'm giving up drinking forever. I'm just going to say I'm doing it for this year. Then I can see where I'm at the end of that and what I want to do after that. I feel like for this year, I want to be clear-headed and I want to do breath work and I don't want to be smoking and I want to get rid of my wheat, dairy and sugar intolerance again that's given me asthma again. And I just want to be absolutely ninja-y. That's what I want to do. I want to feel like a ninja. So that's how to sort of create the container for this Pisces energy. So the mottos for this year is I can figure it out. Success is easy and effortless. I'm a smooth operator and I'm limitless. It's all about getting yourself aligned and ready for 2026. And this being the year of being a foundation and a filter. This was what made me think about the alcohol, that all drugs will dull your energies with this 9 energy. And because it's subtle, the veil is thinner this year. So when the veil's thin at Samhain and Beltane, 9-year energy is a thinner veil energy as well. And it will be easy for demons or bad energy to get into you. So you need to do a lot of protection work. And that's another reason why I don't want to do the drinking. I want to do protection work on myself and just be present, be really here, getting clarity of mind for the next year, which is the 10-year. It's all about aligning you with what you're meant to be doing, which might not always be what your ego thinks it wants to be doing. You have access to a higher magic you might have forgot about. And this was, for me, memory jogger. So when I was saying things didn't feel quite as connected or as exciting and new and magical as they did a couple of years ago, what I need to remember and reconnect with is letting the universe lead, which is what happened when I found myself here, marrying Dizzle and following the universe, because it led me to all these places. When I realised I wasn't doing the IVF anymore and I went, okay, universe, you're in charge. It was trusting that. And I don't want to get bogged down with getting a book deal and things like that. If it happens, it happens. The universe will bring it to me. Doesn't mean I'm not trying. You have to do the work. But if it doesn't happen, that doesn't mean anything. Just keep doing things. My first book got published after 10 years. It was on a shelf for 10 years. But at the moment, autobiography isn't selling because people don't want to read about the pandemic. My book is literally about the pandemic and it is an autobiography. I know that they're not selling at the moment. In 4 or 5 years' time, when people are sort of feeling nostalgic to it, it might do well then. It's allowing space and time for things and not freaking out or panicking about them. Historically, people are going to be interested in my book. So it might be when I'm dead and years later, people will be like, oh my God, this was what this person's experience was of the lockdown and nature and the world I don't know, because it looks like we're possibly going into World War III and the biodiversity ecosystems collapsing. Maybe in 50 years' time or 100 years' time when I'm gone and there are still people around, those books might be of massive interest. So that's also fine. It's just trusting that the universe is sorting itself out. It doesn't matter. Let it lead and don't let your ego get in the way of whatever's going on. So trusting the dance, being a fit receptacle, getting more from less. That's a big thing for this year. Making what you create worth more money. So that's just making sure you do things well. And yeah, being smart with your budgeting is what I'm saying I need to do. One crass move and you could screw it all up. So year of manoeuvring into the higher purpose. Even if it feels like it's gotten tits up, then the universe is still aligning you with your soul rather than your ego. The universe card is 10. The 2026 year is ruled by Saturn, doing the right work. So it's guiding you into doing the right work. Hone in on your skills and discipline, doing things with excellence so that in the year 10, you'll find yourself in the place doing these things and doing them really well. If you enjoy this podcast, then please consider supporting me on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Jolie Rose. When you listen to this podcast, the creation hibernation opening ceremony will have already happened because that's happening tonight and I'm speaking on the 30th of December. And that's for the Dark Moon in Capricorn, we will be working with that energy to set our intentions and to kind of set ourselves up. But the process will be carrying on throughout the whole of January and February. So it's not too late. If you want to get involved and hop on, then that's still totally possible. So I'm taking a break from the podcast over January and February to honour my need for downtime and submerge myself in a yummy creative process, which you are welcome to come and join me in the darkness. We'll embrace the depths of winter by delving into our creativity with Creation Hibernation, a unique writing series designed to align with the lunar cycles and inspire your imagination. So Monday nights on alternating writing sessions, we will be working with the moon. So like I say, you've missed the Capricorn Dark Moon on the 30th, but then 2 weeks time it will be the full moon and then dark moon 2 weeks after that. So every other week we'll be working with the moon energies, and you can catch up. I'll be recording the sessions, so I'll be able to share the recording of tonight's session with you, so you'll be able to do that work yourself. And like I said earlier in the podcast, working with the dark moon energy, we're still in Capricorn energy regardless, which is foundations and setting intentions and getting yourself set up for the year ahead. But also the energy of the moon grows with the moon getting fuller. So if you're this side of the full moon, then the moon is still growing, so you can still utilize that moon energy. And then every other week we will have silent hours where we sit together and write in a focused, supportive space. The first session for that will be next Monday, and for that we will be sitting in silence, but it just means we sit together and it makes sure that we do it. So we'll start the session by setting our intentions and sharing what we want to do in the next hour, and then just sit there and write for an hour, and then at the end we'll have a moment to share. So you'll be getting guided lunar workshops every other Monday to inspire and structure your writing, and then quiet collective writing sessions on alternate Mondays, and also the recordings of the workshops. The price for this, if you sign up to a little bit extra on Patreon, which is £8 a month, then that makes it £2.25 per session, and you sign up to that, and you also gain access to the videos for the podcasts and extra things that I put up every now and then, but you get to see the videos of the podcasts when they're up and running again in March. If you don't want to sign up for the Patreon but you want to just do the course, then it's £25 for the full 8 sessions. That makes it cheaper than £5 per session. If you want to do just drop in, then it's £5 a session. To sign up, just email me at nonsenseinthechaos@gmail.com. Let the energy of the moon guide your creativity this winter, whether you're exploring a new idea or nurturing a work in progress. Creation Hibernation offers a chance to connect with yourself, your craft, and the creative immersion potential of the deep winter months. Reserve your place now and begin the new year feeling refreshed and inspired. And Happy New Year, because when you listen to this, it will be New Year, which is my birthday. And so big New Year kisses and birthday squishes from me to you. And now back on with the show. It's interesting because in Chinese astrology, next year it's the year of the snake, which is very similar energy: introverted, observer, cool, mysterious, sensitivity, wisdom, passion, and fortune. One of the things I'm going to be doing in this ceremony is creating a little altar piece to go on my altar that I'll get out at different points through the year. I have different altar pieces, so I'll change them around, but this one can be one that I can go back to. And it's my mood board for 2025. And that's got all the things that I'd like to happen and create on there. And that's going to work better this year than ever because it's so to do with symbolism and the mysteries. It's not about literal, physical, banging your head on a wall, trying to make things happen, which is much more Mars energy, which is year 5. And even last year, 8, which was life force energy, that's make the baby, make the things happen, blowing things into reality. This is much more about the subliminal, the dream world and imagination. Symbolism is going to be extremely important for next year. So making mood boards and putting symbols around the place to influence you throughout the year is going to be a key thing. That also means we're working with crystals, purple crystals, amethyst, things like that, and then moon-related crystals because it's the moon card that it rules. And so that's like selenite and quartz. Have lots of them around. All of that could be really good for supporting you. 9, align, and you'll be fine. So make a purple altar, get the stones, use symbols. Be careful about subconscious programming. Keep your brain clean and protect your energy. And that means things like social media. I'm going to be doing a digital detox over January, February when I'm doing the Creation Hibernations. I'll be cutting myself off from social media, which is heaven. But also when I get back on it, I'm going to be really rigorous this year about using it in a healthy way. I think I'm going to try and just use them on the computer and not have them on my phone. I'm really going to try and not use my phone at all. I don't use it as a phone, so I don't need it as a phone. Completely emptying myself of unneeded brain clutter and meditating, do as much meditation as possible. It's all about the breath work. This year, there's some big things happening because there's a lot of planets moving into signs. We've had Pluto move into Aquarius for the first time in 240 years, and that changes signs every 20 years. Then Uranus, which is another one of the big planets, that's moving into Gemini in July, and that's been in Taurus since 2014. And that's going to shift huge communication advancements and AI. And we had a big conversation about this last night around the dinner table. My friend absolutely hates it and is anti it. She did a really good impression of AI all night and she was being our AI. So she was like, oh, I might try and take over. You can all just ask me. And it was brilliant. She was being hilarious. But you're going to get left behind without it. But we don't know what cat we've let out of the bag. But it has been let out. It's out there. You need to get on board with that. That's my take on it. Because otherwise you're going to get left behind. And then Jupiter is moving into Cancer around May or June. And that's blessings and abundance for the home, because Cancer's the home. It's great for buying and building homes and family love and major prosperous energy. Cancer is ruled by the moon. It's a 9-year, which is a moon year because of the tarot. There's a saying that when Jupiter and the moon get together, success is unavoidable. There's something really brilliant about that. I want to build a house with Diz. That's our project that we're going to do together, seeing as we're not having children. And that just feels great. So it feels like that's going to happen. That's what astrology says to me, that we're going to achieve that dream and build our own little hobbit house, which I'm really excited about doing. And then Mars and Pluto. Oh yeah, so this is happening at the moment. Mars and Pluto are in opposition. It started a few days ago and it's going to be for a couple of weeks. This is the sort of time when wars do kick off, but definitely be careful about fighting and falling out with people. It's a very volatile energy. It's been lucky that it's happened over Christmas because that's sort of a quieter time for people generally. To some extent, that would have put the brakes on a little bit. But yeah, it's a volatile time. So hopefully that doesn't manifest into anything too unpleasant. It's a year for dream work. So pay attention to your dreams this year, whether they're day-to-day dreams, which is just because you saw something on the telly, you then dream about it. Hope fulfillment dreams, which is, you really want to get together with that person and then you dream that you do. And then you have prophetic dreams, which we see something that then happens. And I have them all the time. And then spiritual message dreams where you're like, what was that all about? And you try and unpick it. So do keep a dream diary by your bed and just keep on top of making a note of what's happening in your dreams. And then in terms of rituals for this year, burning incense, because it's air, it's the breathing. Sandalwood's a good one. Don't burn it all the time because it can give you melancholy. And depression is another thing that you could slip into this year because it's that kind of malaise feeling. So yeah, keeping things light and being easy on yourself. Master a skill, dress elegantly, and make vision boards. So it is all about the symbolism. Maybe learn about sigils. Sigil magic will be good for this year. Learning how to make sigils and put them around the house to inspire you. So yeah, that's the 2025 Year 9, what to expect in a nutshell. And now we'll see what the universe wants me to talk about. Let's see what the universe wants me to talk about today for the runimation. That's to do with the 2025 Year 9 energy. Uras. The strength rune. Interesting. See, if I picked Uras for a Year 5 Mars energy kind of vibe, then it would mean, let's have the revolution, let's fight, let's do the physically strong thing. But with it being the 9 energy, it feels more akin to the feeling I got. I think I might have talked about this in a previous podcast, so I think I've pulled this rune before. But when I did the 4 pilgrimages, I pulled a rune for the beginning and end of each walk, and this was the ultimate rune. This was the end rune for the 4 walks. I was surprised that I pulled it because up until that point I didn't have anything more to say about that rune other than be strong. It represents the ox and it's about being strong. When I saw that as the rune for the end of the walk, I was like, oh, that's interesting. We learned so much about death in the final pilgrimage, because we turned up at an artist community set up in the 60s, the people who had set it up and lived there were now very elderly. When we arrived, the daughter of the woman who had set it up had been running it. She was a older middle-aged woman, and she'd been running it for her mother for, however long, the last decade at least of doing it. And she unfortunately had cancer, and she was in hospital dying when we arrived. And we'd just been given it as a tip for somewhere to stay. And we turned up and were like, this sounds really random, but is there any chance we can camp in your garden? It was awkward timing, and they didn't really know what to do. When we first got there, it was like, oh God, I don't know. Let me just speak to my mum, because her sister was there. And it was like, oh, hang on. And then actually they ended up the mum just said, when are they going to perform? Which was lovely, because that was the whole reason that the place was set up, was for travelling players and random mummers to turn up and do things. The fact that we got there when nothing like that had happened for a while, people were very elderly, they'd been there a long time, the thing had been running a long time. I think it had got a bit staid and stuffy and was more an old people's home full of creative people rather than a community hub or something. And they loved that we were there, and they asked us to perform, and we performed the next day in the sunshine. They filmed it for the woman in hospital to watch, and the mum came out with all her elderly friends, and they loved it. And we had a wonderful conversation with them. And it was I would say, the highlight of that last pilgrimage, which felt like the culmination of the 4 pilgrimages. What it told me at the end was that we are here for such a finite amount of time, and that it's an honour and a privilege to be covered in mud, to be soaking wet, to have blisters, to have a bad back from your rucksack, and stink to high heaven from not having washed for 4 weeks, and to then do a play for these people and just bring joy and light into an otherwise dark situation, and that we only get to do this for a very short time and then we're gone. And what a joy and a privilege it is to be alive. And when I came back from that pilgrimage, I didn't just feel physically strong, which I did feel. I felt fit and healthy and just solid. But I also felt full equilibrium within myself as well. So my heart was full and balanced. My head was clear and balanced. My spirituality felt completely full. And my love of the world was absolutely positive and happy. I felt like an oak tree. And yesterday I went and did Gordon Field's Chaos Crusade, and I went and sat with the beacon tree he found while he was over here, which is this lovely, very lightning, crazy looking oak tree that's in the most spiritual, magical bit of the island, Port de Moulin. And I sat with my back to it and meditated for half an hour. And I felt absolute peace and tranquility. I didn't have any mad epiphanies, and nothing crazy happened while I was there. But it was so calming and solid feeling. And that's what I felt off the back of this rune. It made me feel like an oak tree, and it made me feel really solid. The thing I want to do this year with this 9 energy is to sit and meditate with the oak tree, and go and do that regularly as a regular practice. Just go and sit with that tree and meditate and just sit there. Because it's actually a really comfy spot. I can go for a swim down in that beach. It's a lovely journey. That's a nice fitness thing to do, is go down there, have a swim, come back up and sit and meditate with the tree. So that's what I'm going to be doing as my practice. This rune now is probably one of my favourite, from going from being the least meaningful to actually there's more subtlety to it. And it being pulled for a 9 year is interesting, because it feels like the subtle element of being strong. But it's like, take the punches, like roll with the punches. Whatever happens this year, it's, yes, there's going to be challenges and there's going to be things that happen, but it's not bad. Like my experience of doing the play in 2016, the last 9 year, it was a challenge to put my neck on the line and create something that people could watch and judge. I had to read reviews about and deal with the fear of people not coming and watching it and losing loads of money, trying to get audiences to come in and watch it, and all of that. Flyering for your own show is much harder than flyering for someone else's. All of those things, and worrying that it was going to be rubbish. Putting yourself out there as an artist for the first time, that was a challenge. But I don't remember the challenge. I just remember how amazing it was doing the show and how fun it was, and that it was a success, and that I then took that out on the road, and then that led to the Museum of Ordinary People, and then creating my next show, Sisterhood, and taking that on tour, and that being awesome, and doing the healing tour with that, and then that leading to the pilgrimages. That year, that transformational year that was the 9 year that led to the 10, created my artistic career. And so that was a challenge. I don't remember it being a challenge. Nothing interesting or good ever comes from something easy. It's good that things are challenging. Like, you don't watch Lord of the Rings and think, oh, I want that to be easier. Like, you wouldn't be watching it, would you? The Lord of the Rings has stayed the test of time and is a beautiful, brilliant epic that we all love and have watched. You might not, but most people do. It's all about it being hard. That last bit of getting up to Mordor, if that was easy, then we wouldn't be still talking about it. It has to have some kind of level of undertaking, endeavour and strength, using that strength to go, I'm going to still get up that mountain, even if you've kicked me down 1,000 times. I'm going to do it. And then you do it and then you've done it. And that's the thing you remember. You remember that you've done it. And that's what's so exciting. So being strong is, for me, like being solid and calm and like an oak, and sit with oaks and hang out and have that lovely experience of meditating with oaks. But also just in yourself, just be so enamoured and excited and relish life in all its flavour, including the lows. Whatever it is that happens, the roller coaster of life is an honour and a privilege to be part of. It's mental. What an amazing thing. And we will be gone soon. It's not long. We haven't got long. And that's it. And then you're done. So make the most of every single second, even the things that feel boring or difficult or icky or pointless. Just love it. Make the most of it. And that, for me, is what that rune means to me. It's just holding all of it and being like Wonder Woman or Superman, just holding it all. It's holding it all. That's what it feels like. It's being an oak tree and holding it and just witnessing. Like, an oak tree's been alive for hundreds of years, witnessing what's going on, and has had the woes and the storms and all the things. And it's just there holding it, just being solid. That's what that rune means to me. That feels interesting with the 9 energy. That's very subtle and feels like the mastery thing as well, being strong in yourself and being a master, being fit and healthy and a fit receptacle for all of that. So yeah, very good. Nice. I like that rune. And the final part of tonight's podcast, which it feels weird that I'm not going to be speaking to you for a couple of months. I'm going to miss you, so please don't go anywhere. Come back. I will only be gone till March, and then I will be back. So the thing that I'm going to be leaving you with today is the Chaos Crusade. My Chaos Crusade for you is to write a list of the things that you would like to become a master of. They could be things that you have. In a way, it would be quite tricky to become a master of something that you've not had any experience of yet. But doesn't mean you can't do it. And also, mastery doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to be the best person in the world at it, but it might be a mastery for you personally. So for an example, for me, I did learn the violin, and since I moved here 4 years ago, I haven't picked it up. What I would like to do with my not drinking, not smoking thing is work on releasing my voice and do singing and get my singing voice and musicality up to a standard that it's not at. There'd be a mastery there of overcoming my fear and ego fear around singing and music. I've been talking about it for years, so I need to just do it. I definitely feel like there's some past life trauma with it involved in it. Drowning kind of stuff. I want to overcome my asthma, mastery over breathing, mastery over singing, voice, and music will be involved. More, it's that I want to do the mastery. I want to have mastery over writing, which is something that I already do. And also organising things, because I am very good at that. I want to have mastery over it in a way that feels healthy and sustainable and isn't going to cause burnout and has good communication. So things that I need to work on and develop, they're the things that I want to create mastery over. Write a list of things that you'd like to do. It can be things that you haven't ever done before, or things that are your skills already, but that you want to fine tune and make better. Then write a list of ways that you could do that. So, for example, with my singing, there's workshops there's a woman in Guernsey, Gomez. I can't remember her name, but actually she'd be someone that'd be really good to interview as well. Nessie Gomez. Yeah, that's it. Nessie Gomez. She's an incredible singer, and yeah, all of the like spiritual ayahuasca playlists on Spotify have her on there. She's always playing at the Medicine Festival and things like that. She does loads of work with releasing the voice and past life trauma. So I'd love to interview her for the podcast and also do one of her courses. That's a practical thing that I could do. Also with the violin, I need to find a good online violin teacher, but I have friends who are violinists in Guernsey. They're too busy to teach me, but I could ask them if they know any good online teachers that I could look into, or like YouTube videos and things, just to start picking it up again, because I miss it. I miss playing the violin. It's sat right next to me looking at me right now, and I'd love to do that again. And then, yeah, not drinking and not smoking. They're practical things that I can do that means that I will support my breathing, not eating wheat, dairy and sugar. So they're all actual practical things that I can do. For writing, it's the same sort of thing as their writing courses that I can do. Now, I don't have loads of money, so looking for free writing courses, writing my book, doing the creation hibernation means that I'm going to be focusing on doing that work and writing. With my organising, I think the main thing with organising for me is, and this actually is something that came up in the workshop that I wrote in my notes, but I realised I didn't read out when I was scanning through them, is about doing things from a place of excellence, even if you feel like put upon. I'm going to see if I can find it in here because I didn't read it out. Got lost in amongst what I was looking through. This is a bit like what I think the strength rune means, Uraz. So it's breaking old paradigms, lust for life, passionate about what you're doing, passion for life, your art and your skills and your talents, passion for love, passion for truth. Do things your ego is resentful about with excellence as a spiritual teaching. So do everything with excellence, not resentment. And that's turning lead into gold. And that's what the whole alchemy thing is about. My teacher was working in a cafe or working in these jobs that he didn't want to do. He resented it. He wasn't getting paid very well. But as a spiritual practice, he did them with excellence. And off the back of that, he got this other job somewhere, which again wasn't what he wanted to be doing, but it was a little bit better paid. He was working there, working with excellence. And whilst he was there doing that, he met his wife. And that's where he met his wife. And they're now married. Together, they then created a business as a partnership. Now he's teaching and doing this work off his own back, is earning a really good living from that, is actually earning really good money and has had book deals and had books published and stuff. Because he was doing that in the cafe or in whatever job it was that he was doing, through working with excellence, it meant that all these other things opened up. And that I find really interesting, because I definitely get resentful, especially when I'm organising things. It takes up so much time and energy, like the government or putting on a festival or organising a pilgrimage. Like you put on all this energy and then the fun bit you get to do at the end, but you have ages of doing all this sort of boring work. It's doing that with excellence and not seeing it as a negative thing, doing it with a lust for life and doing it with passion and joy and looking for ways to improve the way you do it and do it in a more inclusive way and in a way that means that everyone's mental health is looked after and everyone's health is taken care of. How do we do this work well and work together to improve what we're doing and create something amazing that's sustainable? I'd love it if the festivals ran without me having to be there. I'd love it if that just carried on and didn't need me to be there. How do we make these things embed into the community so that the people want it to happen regardless of whether I'm pushing it to happen? How do we do these things with excellence? And that for me feels exciting. Like then I'm reinvigorated and inspired about doing the work. And yeah, wanting to do it well and with excellence means that I feel like I'm approaching it differently. And that feels lighter and it feels freer. I'm pretty sure things will come from doing that. So I feel like that was a really useful bit of teaching. Look at what you could be more of a master of or become a master of. And then how. Like sit and think about how, especially with the Capricorn energy, we're in the Capricorn energy anyway. The moon starts to grow and so the intentions start to grow. Anything you set from the moon going dark onwards, it's growing with the moon. You can do that dark moon magic anytime. So if you listen to this on Friday, dark moon was on Monday, but the moon is still growing and we're still in Capricorn season anyway. So you use that energy to grow things and make them happen. What is it you want to grow for 2025 with this Mad 9 energy? So it's all very exciting. It's all to play for, and we just need to get focused and utilise this to our advantage. It's all doable, and I feel excited for seeing where this all goes. You know, I feel like it's a chapter change. That's what it feels like. And it was a significant chapter for me, changing in 2016. So I'm excited to see what happens next and where this leads to. So let's roll our sleeves up, get to work. Let's be purifying, cleansing, elegant and dignified and moving like a ballerina, and just glide our way through 2025 and find out what that leads to in 2026. So good luck with it all. And I shall see you again in March. I'm going to miss you, my sweethearts. But I hope you have a lovely, quiet, chilled January, February. And make sure you get lots of rest and do some creative, yummy stuff if you can. And I will see you on the other side. See thee anon.